Bradley Van Herbst here with Brides, Bumps, and Babies Photography. Today we're going to be speaking with Eric Bernal of Skyline Productions. Eric, I've gotten to know recently. He's really an excellent DJ. He does his lighting, fabric design. He's a great MC. Today we're going to talk about DJing and lighting and how they tend to get put together in a lot of packages for clients at weddings. So Eric, say hello.
Hello. Glad to be here, Brad. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you and hopefully educate some brides.
Yeah.
Actually,
So,
not even brides, just couples in general, actually. So,
Yeah.
in the event industry. So,
yeah. So just before camera, we were talking about how we package DJ and lighting together in our conversation, but then I was asking, well, they are separate things, obviously. You're
Sure.
DJing and lighting, but the packages go together. So just let's talk about your DJing style, your experience level. I know
Sure.
you've got years and years of experience. I've witnessed it in person. Maybe just talk about longevity, what you learned over the years, maybe how you have done even like clubs and stuff like that, and how
Gotcha.
that can parlay into weddings.
sure, I'd love to do that. Actually, I started DJing in about 1996. I was in just out of high school, moved to California. That was my dream, was to be a club DJ, and kind of wanted to follow that. And I met my mentor out there, and he was a great club DJ, and he showed me the way to make DJing my full-time job and make a living out of it by doing weddings and events.
Yeah.
So eventually the club thing kind of evolved into more of the weddings and events, which I love doing. I wouldn't want to do anything else. I love being a part of people's days and seeing all the smiles and love and all that goodness and that energy is really why I do what I do. So
I know we've talked before about the real importance about the one-on-one connection.
Yes.
Like, we can't understand how someone shows up and hasn't met their photographer or wedding the DJ before. Talk about how that works for you. And
yeah, absolutely. My company's a smaller DJ lighting and photo booth company, and I like to keep it that way because I like to have the connection with my clients. I really like to develop that one-on-one connection, like you're saying.
Yeah.
I love to know that my clients feel comfortable knowing that when I show up on their day, they know what they're going to get. They've worked with me throughout the entire planning process, and we've developed a relationship. So it's almost like I'm a family member showing up and helping with the
Yeah.
flow of the day. So.
And how about the fact that you're at your DJ station most of the time, but it's still important to have that connection because you didn't just get the playlist, but
Sure. I mean, to speak to that, I really am not behind when the music's playing, I am. But for instance, yesterday the catering was running a little behind, and I just jumped behind the counter and helped the catering folks out to get stuff sped up because the parents are freaking out. What's happening? We're running late.
Yeah.
No problem. I got music playing. I'm gonna hop back there, help the catering folks out. It's really a team effort, and that's all part of who we are.
and that's a whole nother segment that could probably come into all of my guests on these video blogs, is how we talk about being a good
Yeah.
team
Yep.
vendor. But let's table that because we know
Sure.
that can be its own segment.
Yeah,
and everything.
totally can. So but there's just so much more than actually playing music that goes into what we do.
Yeah. So again, with the DJing, I've witnessed Eric and thrown him curveballs just personally. He's playing Steve Miller, and I throw in some 80s dance thing. He's like, the BPMs are different, and I'm like, figure it out, dude. And he does. He figures out a really interesting way.
The experience in playing music is where that all comes into play. I love playing music. I play music in my spare time. I do it for work, so it's I'm engulfed in it. I love to get creative with it, and coming from a club DJ scene, I like to mix. I'm not necessarily a scratch master or anything like that, but I definitely enjoy and appreciate a good mix.
Yeah, and the reading of the crowd at the clubs
Absolutely.
is very apropos to.
It's exactly the same. You really have to just ride the energy of the room, and that's where the lighting comes into play as well. It's that energy and that feeling that you get in that environment. So that's where the two really connect. They are two separate things, like we were talking about, but creating that energy is really what we do, and making that warm goodness that makes weddings so fun.
And I'm pretty sure I know the answer, but for the listeners and viewers out there, the triggering of that lighting, if you were into something that was really cranking and now it's a little bit down tempo, you control.
I really like to create the energy throughout the entire evening, starting even during cocktail hour. Having some fun colors that match maybe the couple's personalities, And then, you know, as the night progresses, you know, maybe even going into something more romantic during dinner to create that romantic feel, a little bit softer energy. And as the night progresses, you know, into dancing, we really love to make the LEDs go to the music or to a program that really fits the theme.
Yeah. And what about taking care of grandparents?
Oh, yeah.
You know, maybe a little Sinatra or this or that. You have to
back
find
to the music stuff. Yeah,
ways
absolutely,
to bring that back in.
You have to definitely find a happy medium while you're also speaking to the personalities and style of the couple.
Yeah. Anything else with like the lighting? I guess, you know, packaging and pricing is a whole different thing that we probably aren't going into today. But you know, as far as tying it together, it is a mood. It's all the sensual, the senses.
Yep, and that even coincides with the timeline and making sure everything flows and really feels good. You don't want your guests leaving with a weird feeling in there. It just didn't feel good. You want everything to just come together, really feel good, and just be really happy and fun.
That leads me to probably the last question to tie this together is, so here you are, club DJ experience, wedding and corporate events experience, been around the block, all the stuff you just talked about, you're tying it together, and then there's the timeline.
Sure.
And you're cranking something, you're going, but you have to be sort of part producer too, and be looking at the timeline.
Absolutely.
Wedding planner hopefully comes up, and you're like, maybe even ask for it. Can we have one more? They're having a blast, and she agrees that it's okay, the dessert's not going to melt or whatever. And that's back to the team playing is adhering to the fact that it's an event, but it's a party. So I think party wins over timeline sometimes.
Sure. Well, I mean, you know as well as I do, things in weddings and events don't always go exactly to time. So there's always a curveball, or there's always something that happens, and we all know that. But it's just how you deal with those things and roll with the flow. Like the timeline thing, I like to spend a lot of time with my couples and clients, really working on that timeline, planning the music out, so that we really know it's going to work. Like I said, there's always a curveball. You just have to be prepared for that stuff.
And all you brides out there, he's not the wedding planner. When he talks about the timeline, he's working with closely you and your planner. So hire a planner. That's a whole nother series, and I'll be speaking and interviewing and chatting with tons of A-level Colorado wedding planners. So those will be coming up in the series too. But I think that could wrap up this segment, unless there's something that really felt.
I think this is finished with a high five.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for having me, Brad.
So we'll be continuing this series, and the next module we'll be talking about fabric and design beyond just lighting.
Absolutely, I'd love to do that.
Okay, and scene.